The black ships came from the void between stars like a plague of metal locusts. War Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue and green planet grow larger on his screens. Earth. Such a small world, spinning quietly, in space like countless others he had crushed beneath his boots. Behind him stretched a fleet of 3,000 warships. Each one was bigger than the largest human cities. Their hulls gleamed with dark crystal that could absorb any weapon fire. Their guns could turn mountains into dust. For 300 years, this fleet had rolled across the galaxy like a wave of death. 2,000 worlds had fallen before them. 2,000 civilizations had begged for mercy that never came. The Zephyrian Empire did not know the word mercy. Vexitar's 4 eyes studied the reports flowing across his command screens. The humans were even more pathetic than he had hoped. They fought each other constantly. Their weapons were crude metal tubes that fired small pieces of lead. Their fastest ships took months to travel between their own planets. Most of them had never even left their homeworld. Perfect. Signal the human authorities, Vextar commanded. His voice echoed through the bridge like grinding stone. Give them the standard terms. Lieutenant Kexmore bowed his scaled head. Yes, War Commander. Surrender in 24 hours or face total destruction. Vextar smiled, showing rows of needle-sharp teeth. 24 hours was generous. Most species surrendered within 6. The smart ones surrendered within 1. But humans seemed particularly stupid, so he would give them extra time to understand their fate. Far below on Earth's surface, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his office at Peterson Space Force Base. The coffee in his mug had gone cold hours ago. Outside his window, the Colorado mountains stood peaceful under morning sunlight. It would be the last peaceful morning Earth would ever see. The red phone on his desk rang. Morrison picked it up before the first ring finished. Morrison here. Jake, this is Admiral Sullivan. Are you watching the feeds? Morrison looked at his computer screen. Satellite images showed dark shapes moving past Jupiter. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Each one was the size of Manhattan. I see them, Kate. How long do we have? 12 hours until they reach orbit. Maybe less. Morrison closed his eyes. He had known this day would come eventually. Humanity had been preparing for first contact for decades. They had always hoped the aliens would come in peace. They had built plans for trade, for cultural exchange, for joining some great galactic community. They had also built plans for war. What about the other bases? Morrison asked. I'm calling everyone. Every pilot, every ship, every weapon we have. This is it, Jake. This is what we've been training for. Morrison looked out his window again. A jogger ran past on the base perimeter. Road. A maintenance crew worked on a damaged fence. Normal people doing normal things, not knowing that everything was about to change forever. How many ships do we have? Maybe 200 combat ready. Another 50 that can fight if we strip them from cargo duty. Morrison did the math in his head. 250 human ships against thousands of alien vessels. Even if every human pilot was perfect, even if every shot hit its target, the numbers were impossible. Jake, you still there? Yeah, I'm here, just thinking. About what? Morrison smiled grimly. About my grandfather. He fought in World War II, landed on Normandy Beach with the first wave. You know what he told me about that day? What? He said the Germans had better guns, better positions, better everything. But they made one mistake. They thought Americans would run when things got hard. Admiral Sullivan was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed. It was not a happy sound. Jake, these aliens have conquered 2,000 worlds. They've never lost a battle. That's because they've never fought humans before. 3 hours later, Morrison stood in the hangar addressing his pilots. There were 43 of them. Some were career military with years of training. Others were National Guard weekend warriors. A few were civilian contractors who had volunteered when the call went out. Lieutenant Amy Parker stood in the front row. 3 days ago, she had been flying crop dusters over Kansas wheat fields. Now she wore the blue flight suit of Earth's Defense Force. Her hands shook slightly, but her eyes were steady. Next to her stood Tony Martinez, who had been racing cars, At Daytona until yesterday. Behind them, Linda Hayes shifted nervously. She had been flying passenger jets for 20 years. She had never fired a weapon in anger. "I'm not going to lie to you," Morrison said. "We're outnumbered 10 to 1, maybe 20 to 1. Their ships are faster, stronger, and tougher than anything we have." A young pilot raised his hand. "Then why are we fighting, sir?" Morrison looked at each face in turn. They were scared. They had every right to be scared. But they were here. When Earth called, they had answered. Because this is our home. Because someone has to stand up to bullies, because if we don't fight, who will? He paused, letting that sink in. Our ancestors crossed oceans in wooden boats to find new homes. They walked across continents with nothing but the clothes on their backs. They built cities in deserts and grew food in frozen ground. Humans don't quit. We don't surrender. We fight until we win or until there's nothing left to fight with. The alien message arrived as Morrison finished his speech. It played on every television, every radio, every computer screen on Earth. The translation was perfect, delivered in dozens of human languages simultaneously. People of Earth, you have been chosen for absorption into the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender all military forces within 24 hours. Submit your leaders for processing. Resistance is futile. Comply or face extinction. The message ended. The hangar was silent. Amy Parker was the first to speak. Processing? What do they mean, processing? Morrison checked his tablet. Intelligence reports from the outer colonies were starting to come in. Survivors from Europa had managed to send a few transmissions before going silent. The reports were not good. They mean slavery, Morrison said quietly. The ones they don't kill, they turn into workers. Mind control. Biological modification. They turn people into living tools. The silence stretched longer. Tony Martinez stepped forward. So we fight. We fight, Morrison agreed. Against impossible odds, Linda Hayes added. Against impossible odds, Morrison confirmed. Amy Parker grinned suddenly. It was not a nice grin. Good. I was getting bored anyway. The laughter that followed was sharp and bitter, but it was real. These were humans. They had been fighting impossible. Odds since the first cave dweller picked up a rock to face a saber-toothed tiger. Some things never change. War Commander Vextar received word that the humans had rejected his generous offer. He was not surprised. Most species needed to see a demonstration of Zephyrian power before they understood reality. He would give them one they would never forget. The first human ships launched from Earth just as alien scouts entered the outer solar system. Morrison led the way in his modified fighter, watching his radar fill with enemy contacts. Behind him flew Amy Parker and 42 other pilots who had volunteered to face impossible odds. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin. The first shots came without warning. Green beams of light cut through space like deadly fingers, turning 3 human fighters into clouds of burning metal. Captain Morrison watched his radar screen as the blips disappeared forever. Good pilots, good people, gone in seconds. All units, scatter formation, Morrison spoke into his radio. Don't give them easy targets. Around him, 40 human fighters broke apart like a flock of birds. Each pilot chose their own path through the debris field that had once been Earth's outer defense stations. The aliens had destroyed those first just to show they could. War Commander Vextar stood on his bridge, watching the tiny human craft dart between his massive ships like insects. Pathetic. Their weapons bounced off his shields without leaving a scratch. Their ships were so small that his targeting computers barely registered them as threats. Destroy them all, he commanded. Make it quick. But the humans were not following the script. Every other species had tried to fight him ship to ship, strength against strength. They lost because his ships were simply better. Faster. Stronger. More advanced. The humans were doing something different. Lieutenant Amy Parker pushed her fighter into a steep dive toward the largest alien ship. Her hands gripped the controls so tight her knuckles had gone white. 3 days ago she had been spraying pesticide on cornfields. Now she was flying straight at weapons that could vaporize her in an instant. Amy, what are you doing? Morrison's voice crackled over the radio. Something stupid, she replied. Cover me. She dove under the alien ship's main guns. The vessel was so big that its own weapons could not angle down far enough to hit her. Parker flew along the hull, looking for something, anything that looked important. There, a cluster of antenna-like structures near the ship's middle. They glowed with the same green light as the weapons. Parker armed her missiles and fired everything she had. The explosions were tiny compared to the alien ship's size, but the green glow flickered and died. Suddenly, the ship's weapons stopped firing. I got something, Parker shouted into her radio. Those antenna things control their guns. Hit those first. Morrison smiled grimly. Leave it to a crop duster to spot the weak points first. Farmers knew all about finding what needed fixing. You heard her, Morrison broadcast to all fighters. Target the antenna clusters. Make every shot count. Tony Martinez rolled his fighter left and dove at another alien cruiser. Racing cars had taught him to find the fastest line through any obstacle course. Space was just another track with deadlier consequences for mistakes. He fired his missiles at the antenna cluster and pulled up hard. The alien ship's return fire missed him by inches, but his missiles hit home, and another enemy ship went silent. War Commander Vextar felt something he had not experienced in 300 years of conquest. Confusion. His ships were more powerful than anything these primitives could build. So why were his weapons failing? Report, he snarled at his weapons officer. The humans are targeting our communication arrays. Without them, our gun systems cannot coordinate properly. Vexitar's four eyes narrowed. Then protect the arrays. Deploy fighter screens. But protecting the arrays meant moving ships out of attack formation, and the humans immediately noticed the change. They began hitting the newly exposed areas with everything they had. Morrison led a group of 6 fighters in a run on the alien flagship. The massive ship bristled with weapons, but half of them had gone dark. Its fighter escort was spread too thin, trying to protect too many targets at once. Stay close to the hull, Morrison ordered. They can't shoot at us without hitting their own ship. It was an old fighter pilot trick. Get so close to the enemy that they could not use their biggest guns without risking damage to themselves. But it only worked if you were small enough and fast enough to stay in the blind spots. Human fighters were both. Linda Hayes had been flying passenger jets for 20 years. She knew how to handle big, clumsy aircraft in tight spaces. Her fighter was smaller and faster than any airliner, but the principles were the same. Stay calm. Follow procedure. Trust your instruments. She lined up on an alien destroyer that was firing into a group of human ships. Its attention was focused forward. It never saw her coming from below. Her missiles struck the ship's engine section. The explosion tore a hole in the hull big enough to fly through. Atmosphere vented into space in a white cloud. The destroyer tumbled out of control, its guns falling silent. Target the engines too, Hayes called out. They can't chase us if they can't move. The battle had been going for 30 minutes. War Commander Vextar had expected it to last 5. His fleet was barely scratched, but somehow the humans were still fighting. More than that, they were learning. Every few minutes they found a new weakness to exploit. First the communication arrays, then the engines. Now they were targeting his sensor clusters, leaving his ships blind and helpless. How were they adapting so quickly? The answer came from an unexpected source. Sergeant Ben Collins had been watching the battle from Earth's surface through a telescope. He was a construction worker, not a soldier, but he understood complex systems. Buildings, ships, alien vessels. They all had the same basic needs. Power, communications, sensors, engines. Collins had spent his whole life fixing things that broke down. Now he was watching the biggest repair job in human history, except this time they were breaking things instead of fixing them. He grabbed his radio and called the nearest military base. This is Collins at Denver Construction. I'm watching your space battle. Tell your pilots the aliens have backup power systems on the lower hull sections. Hit those next. The message reached Morrison 30 seconds later. Construction workers knew about backup systems. Of course they did. All units target the lower hull sections. Look for secondary power generators. Amy Parker was already diving toward another alien ship when she heard the message. She could see what Collins was talking about. Small rectangular structures on the ship's belly, glowing faintly blue instead of green. Her last two missiles punched through the alien armor and found their mark. The ship's lights flickered and died completely. Dead in space. Collins, whoever you are, I owe you a beer. Parker laughed into her radio. But the victory celebration was short-lived. More alien ships were arriving. Hundreds of them, pouring through jump points at the edge of the solar system like a metallic tide. War Commander Vexitar felt his confidence returning. The humans had surprised him with their cleverness, but numbers would tell in the end. His reinforcements outnumbered the entire human fleet, 10-1. Signal all ships, he commanded. Form defensive screens around the primary targets. These insects have shown they can sting. Time to step on them properly. Morrison counted the new contacts on his radar and felt his heart sink. They had destroyed maybe 20 alien ships, but hundreds more were taking their place. His own force was down to 31 fighters. Simple math said they could not win, but humans had never been good at simple math when it came to fighting. All units, regroup. On my position, Morrison ordered. We're going to try something new. What's the plan, Skipper? Tony Martinez asked. Morrison looked at the massive alien fleet spreading out before them like a wall of death. Somewhere behind that wall was Earth. His home. His people. His responsibility. We're going to teach them why humans don't stay conquered, he said. The real battle was just beginning. 3 weeks had passed since the aliens first arrived. The great battle in space continued day and night. But the real war was happening in the shadows. Every day the humans learned something new about their enemies. Every day they found new ways to fight back. Captain Morrison floated in his damaged fighter, watching a supply convoy drift past Earth's moon. His fuel was nearly gone and his weapons were empty, but he was not returning to base yet. He was counting ships and looking for patterns. The aliens were smart, but they followed rules. Their convoys always used the same formations. Their patrols always followed the same routes. Their supply ships always carried the same cargo in the same places. Humans had spent thousands of years breaking rules. Control, this is Morrison. I count 40 supply ships heading for the main fleet, same formation as yesterday. Admiral Sullivan's voice crackled through his radio from the hidden command center deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. Copy that, Jake. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Those supply ships don't have fighter escorts, and they're carrying food, fuel, and spare parts the main fleet needs. The main fleet will notice if we destroy their supplies. Morrison smiled. Good, let them notice. Amy, you copying this? Lieutenant Parker's voice came through clearly. She had been leading hit-and-run attacks for 2 weeks straight, learning the alien patrol schedules by heart. I hear you, boss. You want us to go after their groceries? Their groceries, their fuel trucks, their repair crews. Everything that keeps their big ships running. On the surface of Earth, Sergeant Ben Collins was building something that had never existed before. Working with teams of construction workers, mechanics, and engineers, he was turning every major city into a fortress. Not the old kind with walls and towers, but something new, something designed specifically to fight aliens. Collins stood on a rooftop in downtown Denver, looking at his latest creation. It looked like a normal office building, but appearances were deceiving. The windows were actually gun ports. The parking garage was full of missile launchers. The basement connected to a tunnel system that stretched for miles in every direction. How many more like this do we have? Asked Sam Wright, a former police officer who now commanded the city defense forces. 50 buildings in Denver alone, maybe 300 across the country. All connected, already. Wright shook his head in amazement. 3 weeks ago I was giving out parking tickets. Now I'm preparing to fight space aliens in downtown Denver. Collins picked up a piece of alien metal that had fallen from the sky during yesterday's battle. It was lighter than aluminum, but stronger than steel. Human factories were already learning to copy it. 3 weeks ago, none of us knew aliens existed. Now we're stealing their technology and using it against them. Humans adapt fast. Lisa Chen had been a combat medic in the army before becoming a civilian doctor. Now she was back in uniform, but her job had changed completely. Instead of treating human injuries, she was studying alien biology from captured specimens. The aliens were tougher than humans in some ways, but weaker in others. Their bones were harder to break, but their blood carried less oxygen. They could see in different kinds of light, but loud noises confused them. Most importantly, they healed much, slower than humans did. They're built for winning quick battles, Chen explained to a group of military officers. Their bodies are designed for short, intense fights. But humans can keep fighting for days, weeks, months. We heal faster. We need less sleep. We can eat almost anything. General Paul Wright, Sam's father and the man coordinating Earth's overall defense, studied the medical reports carefully. So in a long war we have advantages? In a long war we might actually be stronger than they are. War Commander Vextar was discovering the truth of those words. His forces controlled the space around Earth, but they could not land troops without massive casualties. Every time his ships tried to establish a foothold on the planet's surface, the humans would attack from unexpected directions. They used their own destroyed cities as weapons, turning rubble into avalanches that buried his landing craft. They poisoned water supplies with chemicals that made his soldiers sick. They played loud music that disrupted alien communication equipment. Most disturbing of all, they never stayed defeated. Vextar would crush human resistance in one area, only to have it spring up somewhere else a few hours later. It was like fighting smoke. "How many troops have we lost in ground operations?" he asked his tactical officer. 12,000, War Commander. The humans refused to surrender even when completely surrounded. Vextar's claws scraped against his command console. In 300 years of conquest, he had never lost 12,000 troops to a single planet. Most worlds surrendered after losing a few hundred defenders. But humans seemed to consider death preferable to slavery. Lieutenant Amy Parker led her squadron through the asteroid belt, hunting for alien mining operations. The enemy needed raw materials to build new ships and repair damaged ones. If the humans could disrupt those supply lines, the alien fleet would slowly weaken. "Contact bearing 270, called out Marcus Johnson, a former stunt pilot who had joined Parker's unit. "Looks like a big one." Parker checked her scope. The alien mining ship was enormous, designed to strip entire asteroids down to nothing. It was also completely undefended, surrounded only by a few small worker craft. "Too easy," she muttered. "Has to be a trap." But sometimes easy targets were just easy targets. The humans had learned that aliens expected every fight to follow certain patterns. When humans broke those patterns, the aliens often had no backup plan. "All units, attack formation. Hit the engines first, then the mining equipment." The attack lasted 15 minutes. When it was over, the alien mining ship was drifting powerless among the asteroids, its cargo holds full of materials it would never deliver to the fleet. Tony Martinez intercepted the distress signal as they flew away. The alien crew was calling for help in their own language, but human computers had cracked their codes weeks ago. They're saying something about impossible tactics and unpredictable behavior, Martinez translated. "I think we're getting under their skin." Parker smiled. Getting under the enemy's skin was exactly what humans did best. Back on Earth, Dr. Richard Stone worked in a laboratory hidden beneath the ruins of MIT. He and his team had been given samples of alien technology captured during the fighting. Their job was simple in concept, but nearly impossible in practice: figure out how it worked and build human versions. The alien computers used quantum processing that operated faster than anything humans had ever built, but they also had weaknesses. They were designed to handle predictable inputs and logical programs. They had trouble dealing with random data or creative solutions. Stone had an idea that might exploit that weakness, but he needed more time and more captured equipment. Fortunately, the fighting in space was providing plenty of both. "How close are we to a breakthrough?" asked his assistant, a young physicist named Carol Davis. Stone looked at the alien device on his workbench. It was some kind of communication array, still partially functional despite battle damage. If he could reverse engineer it properly, humans might be able to listen in on alien military communications. "Close," he said. Very close. High above Earth, Captain Morrison prepared for another night of hit-and-run attacks. His fighter had been repaired and refueled, and his weapons were loaded with a new type of missile based on captured alien technology. The enemy fleet was still enormous, still powerful, but it was not the same unstoppable force that had arrived 3 weeks ago. The aliens were confused, frustrated, and starting to make mistakes. Humans had been waiting their entire history for someone to make mistakes in a fight. All units, this is Morrison. Tonight we're going after their flagship. Time to send War Commander Vextar a message he won't forget. The message was simple. Earth was not conquered. Earth was fighting back. And humans were just getting started. 2 months into the siege, everything changed. Captain Morrison floated in the cargo bay of a captured alien cruiser, watching his boarding team secure the ship. Marine Corporal Danny Rodriguez had led the assault through a hole blown in the alien hull by Navy engineer Helen Foster. Now they owned an intact enemy warship. "This is unbelievable," Foster whispered, running her hands over the alien control panels. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, but the basic principles are the same. Power, navigation, weapons, life support. I can figure this out." Morrison activated his radio. "Control, this is boarding team Alpha, package secured. We have a complete alien cruiser with minimal damage." Admiral Sullivan's voice came back immediately. "Outstanding work, Jake. Get that ship back to Luna Base. Dr. Stone is waiting for it." The captured cruiser changed everything. Within days, human scientists had access to complete technical manuals, star charts, and communication protocols. Most importantly, they learned the locations of other Zephyrian fleets throughout the galaxy. Dr. Stone stood in his expanded laboratory, surrounded by alien equipment that hummed with unknown energies. His team had grown from a dozen scientists to over 200, working around the clock to unlock the secrets of Zephyrian technology. "Their shields operate on rotating frequencies," Stone explained to Admiral Sullivan during her daily briefing. "If we can match those frequencies, we can make our own ships nearly invulnerable. How long until we can build shield generators?" "We already have. 3 prototypes are being installed on fighters as we speak." Sullivan smiled. For the first time since the invasion began, humans were not just surviving, they were improving. "Lieutenant, Amy Parker's fighter now carried alien shield generators powered by human fusion reactors. The combination should have been impossible, but human engineers had made it work through trial, error, and sheer determination. Her squadron had become the testing ground for new hybrid technologies. Shields are holding at 90%, called out Marcus Johnson as green energy beams splashed harmlessly off his fighter's protective barrier. "This is amazing. I feel like Superman." Parker laughed as she dove through a formation of alien patrol craft, her shields absorbing their weapons. "Fire without damage. Less talking, more shooting. We have a job to do." Their job was to escort a special mission deep into alien-controlled space. Tony Martinez led a squadron of modified bombers toward the main Zephyrian supply depot near Jupiter. If they could destroy it, the entire alien fleet would run short of fuel and ammunition within weeks. The depot was heavily defended, but the aliens were defending against the wrong kind of attack. They expected humans to fly straight at their targets like every other species did. Instead, Martinez led his bombers through Jupiter's radiation belt, using the planet's magnetic field to hide their approach. "Radiation levels are getting high," reported Linda Hayes, flying wing position on Martinez. "But the aliens can't see us through this mess." "Neither can we," Martinez replied, flying by instruments alone through the deadly charged particles surrounding Jupiter. "But we know where we're going. They don't." The bombers emerged from the radiation belt directly above the supply depot. The alien defenders had been looking in the wrong direction entirely. Martinez's squadron dropped their entire payload before the enemy could react. The explosions lit up Jupiter's sky like a second sun. Fuel storage tanks, ammunition depots, and repair facilities vanished in a chain reaction of destruction that could be seen from Earth. The Zephyrian fleet had just lost months of accumulated supplies in 15 minutes. War Commander Vextar watched the destruction through his command viewer and felt something new. Fear. Not fear of death, which he had faced many times but fear of failure. The Zephyrian Empire had never failed to conquer a world. His own reputation depended on maintaining that record, but these humans were unlike any enemy he had ever fought. They learned faster than should have been possible. They adapted their tactics daily. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to enjoy the challenge of fighting superior opponents. "Signal the High Command," Vextar ordered. "Request immediate reinforcement. Elite troops only." His communications officer hesitated. "War Commander, the High Command has already sent 3 reinforcement fleets. To request elite troops implies that regular forces are insufficient." "Regular forces are insufficient," Vextar snarled. "These humans have turned war into an art form. Only our best warriors can defeat them." The elite troops arrived within days. 50,000 Zephyrian commandos who had conquered the warrior races of a dozen star systems. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their armor stronger than anything in the regular fleet. Sergeant Ben Collins watched the new alien ships deploy from his command post in downtown Denver. The enemy was bringing their best forces to Earth. Good. Collins had been preparing something special for them. "All units, this is Denver Command. The aliens are landing elite troops in sectors 7 through 12. You know what to do." What they did was disappear. As the elite Zephyrian forces spread out to secure their landing zones, they found empty cities. No civilians to capture, no soldiers to fight, just silence and shadows. The trap was sprung 6 hours later. Collins had spent 2 months turning every building, every street, every sewer tunnel into part of a massive killing ground. When the aliens spread out to search the apparently empty cities, they walked into the most complex ambush in military history. Explosions erupted from manholes as alien patrols passed overhead. Sniper fire came from windows that looked empty, but concealed. Hidden gunmen. Entire buildings collapsed as their foundations were blown out by remote charges. The elite troops found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see in a battlefield that changed constantly. Every street corner was a potential trap. Every building might contain dozens of hidden defenders. Every step might trigger an explosion. Chris Bailey had been a Marine before becoming a construction foreman. Now he led urban assault teams that moved through the city using maintenance tunnels and subway lines. His men would appear suddenly to attack alien positions, then vanish before reinforcements could arrive. "Hit them hard and fast," Bailey told his team as they prepared for another strike. "Make them afraid to leave their landing ships." Maria Santos coordinated intelligence networks from her hidden command post in a school basement. She had been a high school teacher before the invasion. Now she commanded thousands of civilian observers who tracked alien movements through hidden cameras, radio intercepts, and old-fashioned human eyeballs. "Alien patrol heading down 5th Street, Santos reported. 12 soldiers, heavily armed, moving toward the financial district. Bailey's voice came back immediately. "Copy that, Maria. We'll give them a warm welcome." The welcome consisted of a truck bomb hidden in a parking garage, followed by sniper fire from 3 different buildings, followed by a smoke screen that allowed the human attackers to escape through storm drains before the aliens could respond. War Commander Vextar received casualty reports that made no sense. His elite troops were suffering losses that exceeded anything in their combat history. Not from superior weapons or better tactics, but from an enemy that refused to fight fair. The humans used their own cities as weapons. They turned civilian infrastructure into military assets. They made no distinction between soldiers and non-combatants because apparently every human was a potential fighter. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. Intercepted communications included jokes, laughter, and casual conversation in the middle of life and death battles. What kind of species treated war as entertainment? Dr. Stone provided the answer when his team finally cracked the alien computer networks. The virus he had designed specifically for Zephyrian quantum processors was ready for deployment. It would spread through their communication systems like wildfire, turning their own technology against them. "Upload it to every captured alien device we have," Stone ordered. "Once it enters their network, it will spread to every ship in the fleet." The virus launched at midnight Earth time. Within hours, Alien ships throughout the solar system began experiencing mysterious malfunctions. Navigation computers provided false coordinates. Weapons systems targeted friendly ships. Communication arrays broadcast human rock music instead of military orders. Captain Morrison led the final assault as the alien fleet tore itself apart in confusion. Human fighters equipped with hybrid technology dove through the chaos, finishing off disabled enemy ships and rescuing human prisoners from alien detention centers. Lieutenant Parker's squadron found something unexpected aboard one of the captured ships. Detailed records of the Zephyrian Empire's military operations throughout the galaxy. Star charts showing conquered worlds. Technical specifications for their most advanced weapons. Most importantly, the locations of their home systems. Control, this is Parker. You need to see what we found up here. The aliens kept records of everything. We know where they come from now. Admiral Sullivan's voice was thoughtful. Copy that, Amy. Bring those records home. We have some planning to do. War Commander Vextar watched his mighty fleet reduced to burning wreckage and finally understood what his initial assessment had missed. The humans were not primitive. They were the most dangerous predators. The final battle began at dawn on Earth's 91st day of war. War Commander Vextar led the last desperate assault with everything he had left. 50,000 elite Zephyrian warriors aboard ships that had never known defeat. This was his final chance to salvage victory from the disaster that Earth had become. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the captured alien cruiser now called Defiance. Human engineers had spent weeks learning to operate Zephyrian technology, combining it with their own weapons and tactics. The ship looked alien on the outside, but its heart was pure human stubborn determination. All stations report ready, called out Helen Foster from the engineering station. The Navy engineer had become an expert on alien power systems through trial and error, mostly error, judging by the scorch marks on her uniform. Weapon systems. Online, reported Danny Rodriguez from the gunnery position. The Marine corporal had learned to use alien plasma cannons by practicing on asteroids. His accuracy rate was now better than most Zephyrian gunners. Morrison activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Morrison aboard Defiance. Today we end this war. Today we show the galaxy that Earth fights back. The human fleet that rose to meet the final alien assault was unlike anything that had ever existed. Captured Zephyrian cruisers flew alongside modified human fighters. Alien shield generators protected ships built in Earth's orbital factories. Weapons that combined human engineering with alien technology turned space into a storm of deadly energy. Lieutenant Amy Parker led the fighter squadrons in the opening attack. Her pilots were no longer the desperate volunteers who had first faced impossible odds 3 months ago. They were veterans now, battle-tested and confident. They knew their enemies' weaknesses and how to exploit them. Remember what we learned. Parker broadcast to her squadron. Hit the communication arrays first, blind them, then kill them. Marcus Johnson rolled his hybrid fighter through a cloud of alien plasma fire and targeted the nearest enemy cruiser's sensor cluster. His missiles, built from reverse-engineered alien technology, punched through shields that should have been impenetrable. Tony Martinez led a squadron of bombers straight through the center of the alien formation. His ships carried the most dangerous weapon human scientists had developed. Computer viruses designed specifically to destroy Zephyrian quantum processors. Virus torpedoes away, Martinez reported as his squadron released their electronic weapons. Let's see how they like a taste of their own medicine. The viruses spread through the alien fleet like wildfire. Ship after ship began experiencing critical system failures as their own computers turned against them. Navigation systems provided false coordinates. Weapons targeted friendly vessels. Life support systems shut down without warning. War Commander Vextar watched his invincible fleet tear itself apart and realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans had not just learned to fight Zephyrian technology. They had learned to turn it into a weapon against its creators. On Earth's surface, the ground battle raged through cities that had been turned into massive fortresses. Sergeant Ben Collins commanded defensive positions that looked like normal buildings, but concealed weapons powerful enough to destroy alien landing craft. The elite Zephyrian troops were the best warriors in the galaxy, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Every street was a trap. Every building was a fortress. Every human civilian was a potential combatant who knew the terrain better than any invader ever could. Chris Bailey's urban assault team struck from sewers and subway tunnels, appearing suddenly to destroy alien positions before vanishing back into the underground maze that connected every part of the city. His men moved through their home territory like ghosts, always knowing exactly where to hit and when to retreat. Alien reinforcements landing in Sector 12, reported Maria Santos from her intelligence command post. The former teacher had become a master of battlefield coordination, tracking enemy movements through networks of hidden observers and intercepted communications. Copy that, Bailey responded. We'll give them the same welcome we gave the others. The welcome consisted of explosions that turned landing zones into craters, followed by sniper fire that picked off survivors, followed by chemical weapons that made the air unbreathable for alien lungs. By the time Zephyrian reinforcements could respond, the human attackers had already escaped through tunnels that led everywhere and nowhere. Dr. Stone's masterpiece activated at the climax of the battle. The computer virus he had designed for Zephyrian quantum processors reached critical mass, spreading through every alien system simultaneously. Suddenly, the most advanced fleet in the galaxy was flying blind, shooting at shadows, and crashing into each other as their own technology became their worst enemy. It's working, Stone reported from his underground laboratory. Their entire network is collapsing. Every ship, every weapon, every computer system they have is infected. Admiral Sullivan smiled as she watched the alien fleet dissolve into chaos on her tactical displays. All units, general attack. Finish them off. The human counterattack was swift and merciless. Ships that had been desperately defending their home world suddenly became hunters, pursuing fleeing alien vessels through the solar system. Every lesson learned in 3 months of desperate fighting was applied with deadly efficiency. Captain Morrison led the final assault on War Commander Vextar's flagship. The massive alien vessel was dead in space, its systems corrupted by human viruses, its weapons silent, its shields collapsed. This is Captain Morrison of Earth Defense Force. He broadcast on all frequencies. War Commander Vextar, your fleet is destroyed. Your invasion has failed. Surrender now and your surviving crews will be treated according to the laws of war. Vextar's response came after a long pause. His voice carried centuries of arrogance finally broken by impossible defeat. How? Was all he said. Morrison looked around the bridge of his captured alien ship, crewed by humans who had learned to master technology centuries more advanced than their own. Amy Parker at the helm, flying with skills that no flight school had ever taught. Tony Martinez at the weapons console, targeting systems with instincts honed by years of racing. Helen Foster at engineering, keeping alien machines running through pure human determination. We're human, Morrison replied simply. We adapt. We learn. We never give up. And we never stay conquered. The final Zephyrian ships fled the solar system in defeat, carrying word of their defeat to the far corners of the galaxy. The great empire that had conquered 2,000 worlds had been broken by one small planet whose inhabitants refused to surrender. War Commander Vextar transmitted his final report to the Zephyrian High Command from the brig of a human prison ship. Avoid the Sol system at all costs. The humans are not primitives. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We awakened sleeping predators and they have consumed us. Admiral Sullivan stood in the rebuilt command center, looking at star charts that showed the locations of every Zephyrian base and fleet throughout the galaxy. Earth scientists had extracted everything from captured alien computers. Now humanity knew where their enemies lived, how many ships they had, and what their weaknesses were. So what happens now? Asked Dr. Stone. Do we go back to our normal lives and pretend this never happened? Sullivan smiled and pointed at the star charts. The galaxy just learned that humans exist. Some of them will want to trade with us. Others will want to conquer us like the Zephyrians tried. Either way, we need to be ready. She activated the communication system that would reach every human settlement in the solar system. This is Admiral Sullivan to all Earth forces. Invasion has been defeated. Our world is safe. But the galaxy is much larger than our little solar system, and now it knows we're here. Captain Morrison joined the broadcast from the Bridge of Defiance. We've proven that humans can't be conquered. Now we need to prove that we belong among the stars. The age of Earth being isolated is over. The age of humanity as a galactic power begins today. Lieutenant Parker added her voice from the fighter squadron frequency. And if anyone else wants to try conquering us, they're welcome to try. We'll be ready. The message was heard on every human ship, every space station, every colony throughout the solar system. Earth had survived. Earth had fought back. Earth had won. But more than that, Earth had served notice to the galaxy that humanity was no longer hiding on one small planet. They were ready to take their place among the stars. As traders or warriors, as explorers or defenders, the choice would be up to the galaxy to make. Human determination had conquered the conquerors. The battle-hardened heroes of Earth had proven that some species could not be broken, could not be enslaved, could not be defeated. The stars themselves would learn to respect that lesson.